There's a global recession coming, and at some point soon it's going to hit this country. And if you leave Fine Gael and their buddies in Fianna Fáil in power, they're going to make you pay for it. In October, the global recession was already starting around the world. The PMI, what's called the Purchasing Managers Index, which ranks manufacturing activity. If below the figure of 50 represents recession, if above 50 represents growth. Well, the PMI for most of the major economies is already below 50. The PMI has been a reasonably accurate predictor of recession for the last few recessions. In September, the manufacturing PMI for the Eurozone fell to its lowest level since the European debt crisis of 2012. Sentiment among Japan's biggest manufacturers and corporations has fallen to its lowest level in years. And in the massive US economy, manufacturing PMI has fallen to its lowest level since the crash of 2009. And of course, Brexit Britain's economy has already been described as being in a ditch for several months. And just to complete the whole G7 economy package, even Canada is on the brink of recession. The CEOs of the corporations and the politicians who serve them must be looking at the revolts in Lebanon and Chile, where millions of people are taken to the streets, and they must be really nervous, with another recession coming, only a decade after the last one, that the working class people of the world aren't going to be willing to pay again. Or will we? Global corporate giant JP Morgan have done a survey of the world economy, and they reckon that global profits have stalled. Each of the 10 sectors of the global market have showed massive stalling and slowdown. And though IT and the financial sector are still showing growth, their profits are dropping fast. And we know from previous recessions that recessions in manufacturing don't take long to catch up and pull down the services or financial sector. 2019 was the weakest expansion of the global economy in a decade, and in 2020 we're looking at outright contraction. What about Ireland, our tax haven economy with its much vaunted and praised recovery? Well, when the PMI goes below 50, it indicates a coming recession. And guess what? The Irish PMI has been below 50 for the last 3 months. So that suggests that manufacturing, or the real economy, is already contracting underneath the surface of all the IFSC financial transactions. Services haven't started contracting yet, but they are falling back. Add in Brexit uncertainty, the economic impacts of which are certainly going to hit a lot of the border counties. And then you've got the global trade wars and their impact on trade, exports and imports in and out of Ireland. And even though employment hasn't fallen massively, the quality of employment in Ireland through precarious work and part-time contracts means that that kind of employment is very vulnerable to any kind of economic shock. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, has suggested that 60% of foreign direct investment into Ireland is phantom investment, and that our economy is so distorted by all these corporate funds coming here to avoid tax that we can't even predict accurately where the economy is really at. Meaning a crash could sneak up on Varadkar and friends and they wouldn't even have the power to do anything about it. But then again, they don't care if a recession kicks up, because if they're still in power, guess who's going to pay for it? Those decisions 10 years ago to bail out the banks to the tune of 64 billion, to pay all the NAMA developers off, are the reason there's a 5-year-old kid sitting on a piece of cardboard outside the GPO eating food in a queue because his family are homeless. So here's the nub of it. Can't say exactly when this global slowdown is going to hit Ireland, but it will hit Ireland. Maybe it'll be 6 months, maybe it'll be 1 year, maybe it'll be a year and a half, but it's coming down the tracks. And if Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil are in power, you'll be bailing out the banks again. You'll be watching family members commit suicide because they've lost their jobs and they've no faith in themselves anymore. You'll be watching your loved ones die on hospital beds and trolleys in corridors of underfunded hospitals. You'll be watching your children look at you and say, "Ma, why are we living in a hotel?" And you can say to them, "Well, we voted for Fine Gael, we voted for Fianna Fáil, and they did it to us again." So here's my message to everyone watching this video. If you don't want to pay for the coming recession, you need to vote out Fine Gael, vote out Fianna Fáil, vote out Labour and vote out anyone that will go into coalition with those parties. We need to vote for fighters who will stand up for the working class. We need to build a united and radical left that will build people power movements so that we're prepared to say, no way, we're not paying for another recession.